I am the alien they all fear. On most worlds, my name is not spoken, only whispered. In military briefings across 24 star systems, they flash my image on screens and say things like existential threat, catastrophic potential, and do not engage. Children hear legends about me as a shadow in the sky, a monster between the stars, the thing that comes when your world has broken too many promises. But you just stand there, looking at me like I'm something you don't quite understand but want to. You don't tremble, you don't run, you just stare. The first time I saw your planet, I watched from orbit. Your world was loud, noisy. A constant storm of signals wrapped around it like a cocoon, radio waves, satellites, old television broadcasts still echoing outward into space. Your species had been screaming into the void for a century, begging someone to answer, even as you prayed that no one ever would. I saw your wars, your pollution, your strange kindness, your stranger cruelty. I watched you launch glittering machines into the sky, fragile metal bones carrying cameras and hope. I watched you argue over land you did not create, over lines drawn on maps that would be meaningless from just a few thousand kilometers up. But I also saw something else. Children sharing food. Strangers holding each other in floods, disasters, darkness. Artists painting beauty on crumbling walls. A species terrified of being alone and just as terrified of being found. When my ship descended through your atmosphere, the world panicked exactly as I knew it would. Governments screamed. Armies mobilized. Satellites tracked my path and filled your networks with grainy images. A single obsidian black craft sliding through the sky without wings, sound, or flame. News anchors tried to stay calm. Civilians recorded everything on shaky devices as if framing the end of their world in a vertical video would grant them control. And then I landed, not in your capital, not in a desert testing ground or a hidden base, in a field, your field. The grass on your world has a particular smell when it's crushed, green, wet, and faintly metallic. I learned that when the landing struts of my ship sank into the soil. I remember the wind, too, restless, anxious, like the world was holding its breath. My ramp opened with the slow sigh of ancient metal. The air washed over me, warm and full of particles my suit cataloged automatically. Nitrogen, oxygen, dust, pollen, traces of burnt fuel and distant fires. Your sky was wide and blue and painfully bright. And there you were, one human, standing alone between my ship and the old wooden fence that marked the edge of your home. You weren't a soldier. Your clothes were soft, worn, stained with earth. There was dirt under your fingernails and a tear in your sleeve. You'd been working, living, existing right up until the moment a legend stepped out of a starship 10 meters away from you. Everything about you said, this is an ordinary person. Everything about me said, this is not an ordinary day. I stepped down the ramp. Your heart rate spiked, but only a little. My suit's sensors tracked it, confused by the relatively small surge. You were afraid, the chemistry of fear leaked off your skin, adrenaline, cortisol, sweat, but you held your ground. Hello, you said hello to me. The alien woman they all fear. I didn't answer at first. My eyes, black, reflective, light, devouring, studied you. You stared back into them looking for whatever it is humans seek in faces, intent, threat, empathy, soul. Your gaze didn't skitter away. It lingered. No one ever looks at me that long. On most worlds, they shoot first. On some, they drop to their knees in worship. On others, they run until their lungs burst or their ships burn. Fear is a language I know well. It is universal, like gravity and loss. But you were curious. I am the alien they all fear, I told you in your own language, shaping your sounds with a mouth not designed for them. My voice came out low and soft, layered by the translator with harmonics that made the air vibrate. You blinked once, then you frowned. Yeah, you said slowly. I figured you weren't from around here. You glanced past me to the ship dominating the horizon. They freak out yet? I asked, governments, military, internet. You waved vaguely toward the sky as if including your entire species in the gesture. Yes, I said, they are afraid. You nodded like this was no surprise. Makes sense. You wiped your hands absently on your clothes, then met my gaze again. But why aren't you? I asked. The question slipped out of me before I could stop it. It wasn't part of my script. I had rehearsed 1,000 opening lines for first contact, phrases weighted with significance and diplomacy. Instead, I heard myself ask, everyone fears me, yet you look at me without terror, human. Why? You tilted your head, considering, then you shrugged. I don't know, you said. Maybe I'm too tired to be scared properly. You invited me inside. That, more than anything, broke my composure. On the flagship, my existence is a myth even to my own people. I am a living deterrent, a whispered warning to aggressive species. Do not cross the line, do not force our hand. I am called when diplomacy fails, when empires devour weaker planets, when civilizations poison their stars. I descend, I demonstrate, and fear does the rest. But you looked at me, at the figure in dark armor standing in your field, and said, you probably shouldn't just stand out here. They'll send jets or something. Do you want some water? You hesitated on the last word as if you weren't sure if extraterrestrial beings drank water or if offering it was some sort of interstellar insult. I almost laughed. Instead, I inclined my head. Very well, I said. Show me this water. Inside, your house was small, cluttered, quiet. There were photographs on the walls, frozen moments, people smiling, hugging, holding things they valued, skies, fields, rivers. There were plants on the windowsill, one half dead and leaning sideways like it had given up weeks ago. There was dust in the corners and a crack in the ceiling. It was alive, imperfect, real. You handed me a glass. My suit analyzed the liquid falling from the tap. The results appeared in the corner of my vision. H2O, trace minerals, harmless pathogens, safe consumption level, 99.3%. I disengaged the mouthpiece of my helmet and lifted it halfway, letting you see only my lower face. Pale skin, not quite human, lips a little too dark. Your breath caught, but you didn't flinch. You watched me drink. It's cold, I said. Yeah, you replied. Our pipes are old. It's always cold. We stood in silence for a moment, the fate of your world hovering unnoticed in the air between us. They're coming, I said after a while. You looked up. Who? Your authorities. They traced the landing. They are afraid I came to conquer you, or to destroy you, or to judge you. You leaned back against the counter, thinking. Did you? You asked. That question, at least, I was prepared for. I am here, I said carefully, because your species reached a threshold. Environment, you guessed. Wars, greed. The words were bitter on your tongue, like you were used to swallowing them. Yes, I replied, and no, many species do such things and carry on. But you have reached a point where you can hurt not just yourselves, but others beyond your world. You send weapons into orbit. You test energy you do not understand. You carve questions into the fabric of reality, heedless of the answers. You winced. So you're here to stop us. I am here, I said, to decide. You were quiet for a long moment. Decide what? You asked finally. Whether your species continues, I said, or ends. The words hit the air like a dropped blade. Most beings react poorly to that sentence. They beg, they bargain, they rage, insisting they're different, better, deserving. They tell me about their art, their philosophy, their love. They promise change. They list their achievements as if building tall structures or flinging metal faster than sound makes them worthy of existence. You did none of those things. You just stared at the floor. That tracks, you said eventually with a harsh little laugh. We make a mess. Someone shows up to clean it. I frowned. That is a strange response, I told you. You shrugged. What do you expect me to say? No, mighty space lady, we're actually very nice. Please don't turn us off. We're a disaster. Anyone with a telescope can see that. I studied you closely. So you agree your species should be ended? Your head snapped up, eyes blazing. No, I didn't say that. Then what do you believe? You chewed your lip, thinking. I think you exhaled. We're complicated. We hurt each other. A lot. We break what we touch, but we also fix things. Sometimes we learn, slowly, stupidly, too late, but we do. You looked at your hands. It's just nobody ever gives us time. Time, I echoed. You have had hundreds of thousands of your years. Yeah, you said. And every single one of us only gets, 80 on a good day? That's not much. We're born, we're scared, we're confused, and then we're gone. And somehow, during that tiny little window, we're supposed to figure out how to be kind and wise and not blow ourselves up. You sighed. We mess up a lot, but we're trying. I tilted my head. You're not afraid of me, I said slowly, because you're already afraid of something else. You gave a small, humorless smile. We're afraid of ourselves. Outside, distant thunder rolled, not from storms, from engines. They are here, I said. You stepped to the window and peered out. On the horizon, dust plumes rose where convoys rushed down old roads. Above, tiny dots grew larger, your flying machines, roar audible even through the walls, cutting circles in the sky around my ship. Yeah, you muttered. That was fast. You turned back to me. What happens now? According to protocol, I said, I greet your leaders. They demand assurances. They lie, I lie, we dance. Eventually, someone attacks. I show them the cost of violence. Fear spreads. Your species either chooses cooperation and survival or collapses under its own terror. You grimaced. That sounds about right, actually. But, I added, protocol has never included this. I gestured around your small kitchen, the cracked ceiling, the photographs. This situation, I clarified. One human in a house, you asked. We're pretty standard issue. You are not standard human, I said quietly. You met my gaze again, eyes steady. You still haven't answered my question, I told you. Why aren't you afraid of me? You exhaled, slow this time. Because, you searched for words, you're just a person, aren't you? I stiffened. I am not. You have a name, you cut in. I hesitated. Yes. Do you live on a ship, work with other people, get annoyed at them, follow rules, break some, think about stuff you wish you'd done differently? I opened my mouth to lie, but your eyes were too direct, too unafraid. Yes, I admitted softly. Then you're a person, you said. Not a god, not a monster, just someone doing a job, a terrifying, universe-scale job, but still. You lifted your shoulders. I'm scared of what you can do, but I'm not scared of you. I stared at you. In all my years across countless worlds, no one had drawn that line so simply. The convoy finally reached the field. Through the window, we watched vehicles fan out in a cautious semicircle around my ship. Soldiers poured out, small and fragile behind their armor. Weapons realigned. Voices shouted. The air thickened with fear so sharp my sensors registered it as a pressure wave. They're going to call you, you said, or broadcast, demand you step out, talk to them, surrender, something like that. They will attempt to control the narrative, I agreed. They will want to negotiate to keep their people calm by pretending this is just another diplomatic crisis. And you? I do not negotiate under indirect conditions, I said. They will demand that I exit your home and present myself in the open. You frowned. Will you? I must. You hesitated, then reached for something beside the sink. A cloth. You wet it under the tap and stepped closer. Then hold still, you said softly. Before I could react, you reached up and wiped a faint smear of dust from the edge of my helmet where my hand had brushed it earlier. There, you murmured. No one had touched my armor in years, not without trying to damage it, not with such care. Why did you do that? I asked, voice low. You're about to scare the life out of half the planet, you said. You might as well look presentable. The corner of my mouth twitched. My neural implants flagged the micro-expression as anomalous. It took me a moment to recognize it. I was smiling. We stepped outside together. The wind had picked up, tugging at your clothes and riffling the grasses. Soldiers shouted when they saw you beside me. Some raised their weapons. Several were dragged back by their superiors who were smart enough to recognize the value of someone the terrifying alien was walking with. I walked down the path from your door as though it were a royal corridor. You walked at my side like it was just another morning. Amplified voices barked orders through loudspeakers. Stop! Do not approach! Put your hands! I raised my hand, not in surrender, in greeting. Silence dropped like a curtain. I spoke, my voice amplified not by their machines but by my own, carrying across the field the vehicles, the cameras on every helmet and drone. I am the one you fear, I called. I am the shadow in your briefings, the anomaly in your simulations. I am the alien they all fear, yet one of your own stands beside me without terror. A ripple moved through the crowd. Look at this human, I said. They do not kneel, they do not hide. They understand the danger, and yet they see the person beneath it. I let that sink in. You fear that I have come to end you, I continued. To judge you, to decide your fate. Murmurs rose, quickly hushed. You are correct. Panic flared. It smelled like lightning and salt. But your fate, I said, will not be decided in war. Not today, not here, not while there exists even one among you who can look at the embodiment of your worst fears and say, I will not be ruled by this. I turned my head slightly, speaking now so only you could hear. You bought them time, I told you, with your lack of fear. You stared at me. That's a lot of responsibility for someone who was just pulling weeds an hour ago. Great shifts often begin in ordinary moments, I replied. I faced the forces again. I will leave your world, I announced. For now, you will not be invaded, you will not be destroyed, but know this, your actions are no longer unseen. Your wars echo, your damage spreads, your kindness does too. You are observed. They didn't know whether to be relieved or more terrified. I walked back toward my ship. You followed. At the foot of the ramp, I turned to you. You could come with me, I said, surprising even myself. Your eyes widened. What? Come, I repeated. See what your world looks like from the outside. Learn what others have done right and wrong when they reached the point you are now. Carry that knowledge back if you choose to return. You swallowed. You trust me that much? No, I said, but I trust what you represent. A human who feels the weight of their species' sins and still dares to hope they can be better. You stared at the open ramp, then back at your house. My life is here, you said quietly. Perhaps, I replied, or perhaps your life is bigger than you thought. Silence stretched between us. Then you asked very softly, if I leave, what happens to them, to my world? They will face themselves, I said, with or without you, but if you go, you may help them face what is coming. If you stay, you may still do good. Plant seeds, pull weeds, offer water to those who need it. There is no choice without value. You laughed weakly. You're not making this easier. Nothing important is easy, I said. You looked up at the sky, at the circling machines, the soldiers, the shining ship that had split your day in half, then at the worn wood of your door, the fragile glass of your windows, the life you'd built grain by grain. Finally, you met my gaze. Will it hurt? You asked. The journey? I shook my head. No. Seeing my planet from the outside. I paused. Yes, I said honestly, but sometimes hurt is how growth begins. You inhaled slowly, exhaled shakily. Okay, you whispered. Then I'll come just for a while. Time is relative, I said. I really hope that's not a threat, you muttered. This time I did laugh out loud. The sound startled the nearest soldiers more than any weapon might have. Inside the ship, the air smelled like metal and old storms. Lights traced the path ahead, shifting gently as the ship recognized my biometrics. For the first time in a long time, it also scanned someone else. You flinched as invisible fields mapped your form, then relaxed when nothing terrible happened. Feels like walking into an MRI, you said, but nicer. You compare everything to your own tools, I observed. They're all I know, you answered. For now, I said. I led you to a viewing chamber, a wide, curved window showing your planet in all its fragile glory. Clouds swirled. Oceans gleamed. Night crept across one side like ink pouring over a canvas. You stopped dead. Your voice cracked. I've seen pictures, photos from orbit, but this, you pressed your hand unconsciously to the glass. It's so small, you whispered. And yet, I said, inside that smallness are all your arguments about who owns what, who deserves to live, who deserves to suffer. All your lines on maps, all your flags, all your gods and monsters. You let out a shaky breath. It looks worth saving, you said. It is not my place to want, I replied, only to observe, to act if necessary. And what do you observe? You asked. I studied your reflection in the glass, your eyes shining with awe and grief and love for a world that had never fully loved you back. I observe, I said slowly, that any species capable of loving something this deeply perhaps deserves one more chance. You swallowed. Just one? For now, you nodded. Then I'll help them not waste it. You will try, I said. That is all anyone can do. You turned to look at me. Why did you choose me? You asked. Out of everyone, out of all the places you could have landed, why my field? I considered telling you about the calculations. The algorithms that had scanned billions of signals and settled on a place where fear levels were statistically lower, empathy markers higher. Your home glowing on the probability grid like a quiet ember. But instead, I said, because when I looked down at your world, you were outside, alone, hands in the dirt, connected to your planet in a way most of your kind have forgotten. You looked up at the sky not with a weapon, with wonder. You flushed. You could see me from orbit. I can see much, I said. You shook your head. That feels like cheating. Survival often is, I replied. We watched your world for a long time. Messages flooded in, bouncing off the ship's hull. Demands, pleas, questions in every language. Some begged me to leave. Some begged me to take them with me. Some cursed me. Some worshipped me. I let them wash past unread. You'll have to talk to them eventually, you said quietly. Yes, I agreed. But later, right now, I am talking to you. You smiled just a little. I still don't fear you, you said, even more so now. Why? I asked. Because I've seen what you can see, you replied, eyes on the glowing marble below. And I know what it feels like to love something fragile, to be furious at it, disappointed in it, embarrassed by it, and still not want it destroyed. You glanced at me. You love anything, you asked. The question startled me. My people, my duty, the quiet among the stars when war is prevented. Did I love those things? I wasn't sure. Love was not a word we used often. Emotions complicated decisions. But I knew this. I respect life, I said, and I am tired of loss. Does that qualify? For us, you replied, that's practically a poem. I shivered as your words settled inside me, irritatingly profound. You're going to be a problem, I told you, you grinned. I get that a lot. In the days that followed, days for you, compressed into the strange elasticity of ship time, our conversations ranged across everything. Your childhood, my training, the first world I ended, the first one I spared, the music of your species, the silence between galaxies. You argued with me, fiercely, about justice, about mercy, about who gets to decide who lives and who doesn't. You cried once when I described a planet that chose annihilation rather than change. I didn't know what to do with your tears. No one had ever wept for a world they had never seen. That's what scares me, you said one ship night, sitting cross-legged on the viewing deck. Not you, not your ship, the idea that we could choose not to try. Many do, I said. It is easier. Promise me something, you said suddenly. I stiffened. I do not make promises lightly. Promise me that if we fail, if humans mess this up, if we hurt others, if we prove you wrong, you'll remember that at least one of us tried to be better. That at least one of us looked at you and didn't see a monster. I looked at you for a long time. I will remember, I said. You exhaled. Okay, then I'll do my part. You are only one, I reminded you. Yeah, you said, but so are you. I had never felt so seen, so uncomfortably equal. Eventually, you went home. You had to. Your world could not be studied only from above. It had to be lived in, felt, changed from within. We returned you to your field, though many days had passed aboard the ship. For your world, it was different. Time had slipped more gently below. Enough to cause panic and conspiracy theories, but not enough to break causality. They surrounded you, of course, scientists, soldiers, politicians, people in suits and people in uniforms and people with microphones. They interrogated you. They demanded to know everything. You told them the truth, that we were watching, that we were giving them time. That fear alone would not save them, and neither would denial. That their choices mattered beyond their borders, beyond even their atmosphere. Some believed you, some laughed you off, some wanted to use you, but in the midst of it all, a few listened, really listened. And they changed course, a vote here, a treaty there, a canceled test, a funded project to clean something instead of break it. Tiny things, small in the grand scale of the universe, but I noticed. From far above, in the endless dark between stars, I watched your little world shimmer with a slightly different light. I am still the alien they all fear. In war rooms, they still say my name with dread. On distant stations, they still track my movements and whisper about what might happen if I turn my gaze their way. I am still the shadow at the edge of every reckless plan. But when I think of your planet, I no longer see only targets and probabilities. I see you. The human who stood in a field while the world shook and said, I am scared of what you can do, but I am not scared of who you are. The human who looked at me not as a god, not as a monster, but as a person. The human who, when I asked, everyone is afraid of me, but why aren't you afraid of me, human? Simply answered, because if I let fear decide everything, we're already finished. And because of you, your world is not finished. Not yet. Not today. Today it gets one more chance.